all the participants in, right?
I'm going to, once I...
Hello, thank you all for joining us today for our final webinar in our 8-part series for the Berkeley Master Plan. My name is Erin Schluto, and I'm the Community Development Director with the City of Berkeley. With me today is Megan Mason-Minnock, Planner, Ben Carlisle, Principal Planner from Carlisle Wortman Associates, and Joe Bardis, a representative from the Master Plan Steering Committee. As you may know, we are updating the Berkeley Master Plan from its current version, which was adopted in 2007. A lot has changed in Berkeley and the world since then, so it's important to keep that guiding planning document current and reflective of the needs and goals of the community. One of the most important components of updating a master plan document is getting community member feedback. That includes business owners, property owners, residents, etc. Prior to the global pandemic, we began a robust and extensive community engagement strategy to get the thoughts and opinions of Berkeley residents. This included visits to all city boards and commissions, PTA groups, moms and dads clubs, visits to Berkeley High School and Oxford Towers, and setting up booths and activities at the many community events throughout the summer, Berkeley Days, Cruise Fest, and more. Unfortunately, those engagement activities had to be canceled, but we did not want to stop the forward momentum and the wonderful feedback we were receiving from the community. So we had to think outside the box and devise an entirely new engagement strategy. This 8-part series has examined a new topic each session. For your convenience, these sessions are being recorded and are available on YouTube, so you can recommend to your family and friends to watch at their leisure. Thus far, we have tackled some hot-button topics, such as parking, gathering spaces, stormwater utilities and green infrastructure, corridors, and housing. Today, we are talking about the overall vision, goals, and objectives of the master plan. This webinar will be led by a 4-person panel, including myself, Megan, Chris, and Joe. Carlisle Wortman Associates has been retained to assist the City of Berkeley with updating the master plan and leading these community engagement activities. And the Master Plan Steering Committee has been vital in providing us guidance and direction. If you have questions during the presentation, you can type your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Or you can use the raise your hand function after the presentation has concluded and ask your question directly to one of our panelists. And now, without further ado, Megan?
Thanks, Erin. I'm going to share my screen. I want to welcome you all to talk about draft vision, mission, and values for the Berkeley Master Plan update. Please feel free to put questions and comments in the question and answer box at any time if you're joining us for the webinar. We do have a few polls during the presentation, and we're saving time at the end for a discussion. As we said in our first webinar, we think of the master plan like a roadmap. You start at point A, that's today, and then you get to point B, and that's the future vision of your community. The mission and the values, the mission, the values, drafts of which we'll share in a bit, go along with policies and strategies and actions to create the master plan or the roadmap to get you from today to the future you've planned for. At the outset, we were asked to look at the following issues in Berkeley: housing, open space and community gathering spaces, corridors such as 11-mile, 12-mile, Coolidge, Woodward, and Greenfield, parking, and community character, or really what makes Berkeley special. Naturally, you might see some influence of those conversations in the draft vision, mission, and values we'll present today. During the master plan, we have been using a method that we call the 3 whats method, where we analyze with you, the community, what's important to our community, so what, or why are these issues important, and then now what, or what do we need to do? And the mission, vision, and values are really the synthesis of the first what, what's important to you, to guide future decisions and decision makers. Everything in the master plan, every project, policy, strategy, action should relate back to that vision, mission, and values. To draft the vision and mission values, with some prompting from the steering committee, we looked at defining phrases or symbols of the city as shown in this slide. The city seal at the bottom with the book and the steeple and the bell and the family have been a long-lasting symbol of the city of Berkeley. The city's motto, small city, big impact, was also something that we looked at, as well as the city's recently developed tagline with its branding, Be Berkeley, where you want to be. That Be Berkeley campaign went a step further with a B motto for each department on the city's website. We use these as a basis for drafting the values, but not all of them necessarily apply, such as Be Informed, the tagline for the city clerk's office, or Be Dependable for the Department of Public Works. Using these already developed items and conversations we had over the past 6 months, we drafted a vision, mission, and values that we shared with the steering committee, a representative group of the community appointed by the city council, and asked them for edits and suggestions. They gave great advice leading to the draft that we're sharing here tonight. But before we dive into the draft, we have a bit of inspiration as well as aspiration. In the very first webinar, we shared this quote from Daniel Burnham, one of the most famous urban planners. It comes from his 1909 plan for Chicago, where he said, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood." And then the quote goes on to say, "Make big plans, aim high, and hope and work." Our challenge to you as a community, set out in the first webinar, was to make those big plans, but also to be pragmatic, creating a plan that aims high, but is also achievable. So as you're looking over these drafts, in the next few slides, please ask yourself if this meets that bar or not, and share any suggestions to get there. The vision is what Berkeley aspires to be. This should not only be inspirational, but resonate as achievable. The draft vision is Berkeley will be a thriving 21st century municipality rooted in strong neighborhoods and a walkable design, supported by a caring community that helps every resident, business, and visitor to flourish. So we want to know what you think. For the live webinar participants, feel free to put any reactions into the Q&A. And in a minute, I'm going to launch a quick poll for some general feedback with answers, options up, asking for your reactions, and a short menu to respond to. I like it as it is. I have some suggestions. I have some questions, or I don't like it. And please feel free to say you don't like it. We would rather know that now and be able to easily change it than have to do that later down the line when it would be much more difficult. Plus, the poll is anonymous. We're not going to know who said what. Your participation will help us structure our conversation after the presentation. Also, if you're watching live at home or on YouTube later, please share what you think either in the comments on YouTube, emailing us at masterplan@berkeleymish.net, mailing suggestions to City Hall, or call and leave a voicemail at 248-658-3327. So, launching the poll. And those who are viewing via computer, you should be able to click on one of these things. What's your reaction to the draft vision? I like it as it is. I have some suggestions. I have some questions. I don't like it. And we'll wait till it hits 30 seconds that the poll's been up in order to, before we close it. All right, about 5 more seconds for those last votes. All right, so what I'm seeing is that we've got 80% of the folks, 4% of the folks saying I like it as it is, and then we have at least one person who's saying I have some questions. So I'll share those results. So I think that means that we'll have to come back to that question and at least and ask the person. So the person who had some questions, if you could type those in the Q&A, or of course we can unmute you later if you would like to speak and share those. The next thing that we wanted to share with you is a mission, and the mission is a little bit different from the vision. Instead of focused on the future, the mission articulates what city officials and staff do daily to achieve the vision. And striking that balance between inspiration and achievability, the mission should come down on the practical side. The draft mission that that is presented tonight is Berkley will strive to enhance economic vitality, preserve neighborhoods, and foster progress to implement the city's vision and values. Live webinar participants, feel free to put any reactions in the Q&A, and then I'll launch another poll in a moment with the same options. Again, for those watching at home or later on YouTube, please email us any suggestions or reactions at masterplan@berkleymish.net, mailing suggestions to City Hall, or leave a voicemail at 248-658-3327. All right, and then we're going to go to poll 2. So now you all should be able to see and fill in what your reaction is to the draft mission. Again, I like it as it is. I have some suggestions. I have some questions. I don't like it. All right, a couple more votes coming in. And definitely some questions again, but some folks who like it. All right, I'm gonna give you 5 more seconds, and then I'm gonna end the polling. All right, and as you can see, about 80%, again, this kind of shook out the same way. Everybody said I like it as it is, but one person said I have some questions. So we'll have to, again, we want to spend the bulk of our time digging into those questions after. So finally, we wanted to share with you the values. And values are principles to guide decisions to stay on mission and achieve the vision. And the master plan values are also sometimes called goals and are important since by law, the master plan is a guide for many zoning decisions, such as rezonings or special land use approvals. We originally had 10 values and were advised by the steering committee to reduce it to 5 or less to be more inspirational as well as more usable. As you can see by the words in the parentheses, there's some wordsmithing left to do, or at least some choices. Plus, please, this is where we really need your input. So live webinar participants, feel free to put any reactions in the Q&A, knowing that another poll is coming. And for those watching at home or on YouTube later, again, email us at masterplan@berkleymish.net, mail suggestions by snail mail to the City Hall, or leave a voicemail at 248-658-3327. The draft values with some explanation are, first, Berkley is active, or that could be dynamic. That's the word choice that we were struggling with. And as a way of explanation to that, it means that Berkley will make decisions to keep the city active, such as maintaining its walkable design, honoring the needs of pedestrians and cyclists as well as drivers, and creating and maintaining places where people of all ages can be active. The second value that is in the draft tonight is that Berkley is responsible, or perhaps that's caring. And it means that Berkley will make responsible decisions, such as providing excellent services, offering programs for the young and the old, and helping those in need. In each decision, also, the city should inquire and consider how those impacted would be effective. A third value is that Berkley is innovative or progressive. And that word choice has been a debate by the steering committee that isn't quite resolved yet. So please let us know what you think. The supporting language proposed for this value would be that Berkley will make decisions that foster and welcome progress in terms of technology, sustainability, and policy, such as energy efficient lighting, green infrastructure, and updated zoning. Finally, there was the value of Berkley's welcoming, or maybe it's better to say inclusive. Again, a bit of a debate on this word choice. But the explanation is that Berkley will make decisions that welcomes new residents, businesses, and visitors, such as maintaining a business-friendly atmosphere and hosting events that draw visitors from around the region. That installation could also talk about how neighborhoods are welcoming and policy suggestions to do that. So that might be an area to bulk it up with. All right, so I'm going to launch our final poll. I gave you the wrong one. We're going to do it again. There we go. Thanks for your patience. All right, now all of you should be able to ask, what are your reaction to the draft values? I have some suggestions. Excellent. We want suggestions. Anybody else in terms of, and we're going to leave this up for 30 to 40 seconds. Whether you like it, you have some suggestions, I have some questions, or you don't like it. All right, thanks so much. This is going to be very helpful. And I can see also that there's lots of questions and answers coming in, and can't wait to discuss them. All right, so we're about even. Some people like it as it is, but others have some suggestions. Oh, and as well as a question. Excellent. Well, this will be exciting. All right, I'm going to end the poll and share those results. And as you can see, about 40% of the folks who are on the webinar like it as it is. The same amount have some suggestions, and then someone has a question, and we'll be happy to answer those. All right. We wanted to remind you of our upcoming schedule, and it's really our final weekly online drop-in, and that's this Thursday morning at 11 o'clock, where you can ask any questions, give comments on this or any other webinars, or provide any additional insights. And so that link is there, and also if you go to the master plan page on the city's website, that provides that link as well. And really, we want you to share with us. We want to hear what you have to say. So listed on this slide are various ways to get in touch with us and give us your thoughts. Email us at masterplan@berkleymich.net. Mail suggestions to City Hall at 3338 Coolidge Highway, Berkley, Michigan, 48072, or leave a voicemail, 248-658-3327. And to close, we just wanted to say thank you to everyone who helped create and participated in this webinar series, especially those folks who took the time to be attendees on the webinars and gave us your input and comments and emails. We're meeting with the Master Plan Steering Committee on July 21st to discuss the next phase of community engagement with the Master Plan. We really appreciate all of your contributions, especially in this challenging time, and we hope in the next phase you'll stay engaged. With that, I'm going to turn it over to the panel, and we can talk more about suggestions and questions and comments.
So I'm going to start real quickly, and Megan, thank you for giving that presentation. And I want to thank Joe on behalf of representing the steering committee and some of their thoughts. And the steering committee is a really vital component to this master planning process, and really kind of are I call them almost the champions of the plan. They give us the direction, they give us some of the strategies. They're kind of the community feedback and sounding board for when we start offering ideas and recommendations. So the steering committee is made up of a representative sample of the community. It includes both general residents as well as elected officials and appointed officials on various boards. So it's a very, very important group that we work with. And so, Joe, I just a couple of questions just to get started. With regards to the language of the vision and the mission, how did the steering committee come up with that language, and how'd you land on it?
Oh, yeah, I'll be glad to talk about that. So Megan did a great job of summarizing that, I think, a little bit in one of her slides there. Initially, our June meeting, we met for several hours. I think it was our longest meeting regarding these particular statements. And I think there were some drafts provided by Carlisle Wortman for us to review. And these, I think, were typically like structurally the same as many other communities would be. And they were framed around information that has been gathered from our previous steering team committees. And then as well as she had mentioned, all the data and open-ended statements from all of the working groups and survey that have gone out to the community so far. I really think that a lot of that information that we reviewed as a team was really like the keywords and whatnot that were in the open-ended statements from the survey that I think over 1,200 or 1,300 residents took shaped the mission and vision statement. And then as was discussed previously, the values were initially populated by Berkley departments from the Berkley statements, and then as a committee we reviewed all of those as well as narrowed them down to try to get supporting statements with those statements as they related to the context of a master plan. So the mechanically the process worked through virtual meeting, of course, as we were doing, and it was really great to use some tools to annotate the documents as well as everybody sort of mark it up and red mark it as we went through the reading and the different revisions during that meeting.
So Joe, it sounds like us as well as the steering committee didn't kind of pull this from out of the air. It was kind of vetted and kind of boiled down from comments that we heard in the survey and interviews, and then the steering committee kind of shaped that language to present what we're showing tonight. Is that an accurate statement?
Oh yeah, yes, most definitely. Yep. And it's quite a bit of wordsmithing and truly defining the different concerns and different comments that the residents had from those surveys, as well as again, sort of structurally what a mission and vision would be for the master plan. So
and just last question I have is, and how does the steering committee plan on using this language to set the foundation for the rest of the plan?
Yeah, so the committee, I believe we're gonna use this in 3 different ways for moving forward, and it's 3 different ways. It's 3 different ways, not only related to us internally as the steering committee. It's going to act as our map and help us walk the path of developing the master plan. So I think it's going to be sort of the what we will use as our touchstone to turn around and any content and organization that goes into the plan. We should sort of look to the mission, vision, and values and see how it's going to be supported by how this sort of committee and community developed statements uphold that. And I think, and also as we move forward and the committee moves on and the master plan is developed, it'll definitely be able to provide a reference to how we made current decisions for the content organization of the master plan. So I think the second area is how it will help us for the master plan is with external residents, because I think having the mission and vision and values will really provide a snapshot to like other communities or other people, residents, communities, agencies outside of Berkley about what the plan contains and what we intended to accomplish with the plan. So I think it's a very good way for us to summarize to those outside agencies and folks what we did here. And then third, I think as the steering committee develops a master plan and then dissolves itself, the planning commission and council will definitely be able to use the mission, vision, and values essentially when they take the torch from the committee, passing on the master plan to them. It'll be a touch point for them for their future decisions and any changes, amendments, and or strategic alignment that they have to take on as they are sort of the implementers of the master plan in the future. So
yeah, so it sounds like really it's the foundation under which we kind of build everything else from that based on those. Yeah,
definitely. I think as a steering committee, it'll help us build our foundation, and I think again as it moves forward, it will stick with the plan, so it'll help all those future users really have a basis of understanding of what the plan is about.
And I know it seems like there's a few other steering committee members that are attendees, and so feel free to drop a comment or raise your hand to comment if you want to add anything to what Joe has said here. So thanks, Joe. I really appreciate your participation.
Thanks. Yep.
And we've got a number of comments that people put in during the time. first of all, it was pointed out that the city motto isn't the city motto, we care. And so I apologize for not having that as part of that initial, not having that in the presentation. And then that came up also for some folks when they were talking about the values. And some people said that they liked caring because our motto is our care. Also is we care. And then we got some great comments about the different values in particular. Someone said, Kurt said, I like dynamic, I like caring, innovative for number 3. Elisa shared active, responsible, innovative, and inclusive in terms of being, what those values might be. And Dennis made a great point in terms of welcoming, being inclusive. It's not just for new folks, but for the folks who are already here. So thanks so much for those. Going back to, does anybody on the panel have any reaction to those? Aaron or Ben or Joe?
No, I think all those comments were quite in alignment with the discussion we had during our meeting. So yeah. I think those are spot on. Great.
Well, so let's kind of walk through the vision, the mission, and the values. And in terms of the vision, if you can hearken back to that, and I could share, do you think it would be helpful for me to share that slide again while we're talking about it so people can see it? Okay, I'll do that. All right, thanks for your patience. If folks could let us know if when you had questions about it, either type it in the questions or suggestions. Let us know either by raising your hand and we can unmute your mic and you can share verbally, or type something in the chat.
Megan, didn't someone have a question on during the poll on this one?
I think so, but Kurt's raised his hand, so let's let him, and then we'll give him the floor, and then we will go back to what the question was. Kurt, you should be able to. Is your mic open? Can you say hello?
There we go. Okay, I really liked what really stood out to me was the first thing was mentioned, or the second thing was mentioned, is the strong neighborhoods. I really like that statement in there, showing that that we do value what we have, and I think that really is what stood out to me. I like this. I like the vision statement. That's
okay. All. Great. Yeah, I think the question that we had was, I thought that the Berkeley City motto was "We Care," and so that's the one question that I do see. Did anybody have any other comments or questions or suggestions on the vision itself? I know that we had at least one person who had a suggestion, I think, or question in the poll. Well, and that's okay. Let's go forward to the mission. And so I know there were a couple of different suggestions on this. And it's that, and again, this is what officials and staff do every day. Berkeley will strive to enhance economic vitality, preserve neighborhoods, and foster progress to implement the city's vision and values. All right. right. Here, see from Trisha, I would still like to see progressive over innovative. I'd like some examples of how Berkeley is innovative, and I prefer caring as that it relates to our motto. And Elisa asked, how do we come to the ideas of caring and flourish? What was some of the broader ideas for the vision? Okay, that was back to the vision. So I think the ideas of caring is again going back to that motto, we care, and then also things that we heard from folks either in all the survey in the open in the survey and also in conversations that one of the things that people really appreciate about Berkeley is that people care about each other, that you're a community, that there are friendships and bonds, and that is something that's very important. The idea of flourish more is that people have everything that they can do to be the best that they can be, and looking to provide those as the city can and as is appropriate for the city can. Ben, do you have anything to add in terms of flourish and caring?
Well, I'll comment on the caring. It's one thing that I've been really impressed with, and Megan and I have talked about this, and I share it with Aaron, is you could use passion as same as caring in some respects, is how passionate residents are about this community, both on both sides, on a lot of sides of issues. People have a passion to see and a caring to see this city strive and improve. So I think caring is a really important thing that I think that we should we maintain in any sort of vision statement. And flourish is the same way, because it's caring what you have, but also improving upon what you have too. And that's kind of the idea of the flourishing. So I think that's my understanding of kind of why the steering committee got to that point with the language.
Yeah, and that can also, and again, it's all up for grabs. So the flourishing, if that doesn't fit, that we could take that out. And then I see.
So I mean, Elisa raised a good point. In the case, community seems to be stronger. In that case, community seems to be a stronger word than caring. You can't care without taking the action. See, I think of flourishing almost as a active verb of caring in some respects. So we can kind of talk about this, and we can wordsmith this a little bit more with the steering committee. Again, this is a working draft, and it's very flexible at this point.
And also really the next step is after it goes to the steering committee again for it to go to the planning commission. Because as Joe pointed out, that they're going to, that this is something that they're going to need to use over and over. All right. I see that Kurt raised his hand, and then Lisa, you shared that in case the community, in that case, community seems to be a stronger word than caring. You can care without taking any action. All right. Kurt, your mic is on.
Okay. Can we move it to the next page where it shows the words we're talking about right now? Because right now we're on mission.
Yep.
If you have to move it.
Yeah.
No, I think you guys were talking about the 4 different values. I think the 2 pages later. Yeah, one more maybe. That one right there.
Okay.
Somebody was talking about innovative versus progressive, and I think the only way I can think of it is when you think of progressive, there's a whole. Yes, it does in some way talk about being forward thinking, and promoting obviously progress, but there's a whole lot of other ways to define progressive. Whereas if you look under innovative, I think people are thinking of innovative in a slightly different way. But if you look at the actual definition, forward looking and ahead of current thinking is one of the only 2 things that are listed under innovative. And I think it just it also leaves away any kind of negative connotations that might be connected to progressive. That's what I just wanted to point out. I really like innovative as far as it is forward looking and it's ahead of current thinking. And it's characterized by the creation of a new idea or things. So I think that really fits as far as being inclusive of everything. That's it.
Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and this was a debate in the steering committee in terms of innovative versus progressive, and how do you make sure, what's the best word and what's the best and the best fit. And there were some concerns that progressive might have a negative connotation associated with it in terms of politics, and that people might initially take it the wrong way. And really that the impulse for both words is that the city moves forward and continues to look at new things to make it be the vision, to achieve the vision of what the city wants to be.
Megan, Tricia raised an interesting point.
And that is, innovative to me relates more to science and not to values. Yeah, and so Ben, I think you always ask, like, I know that you always challenge people to say that these things shouldn't be dry, that they need to be compelling, correct?
Yes, I mean these are aspirational statements. These are what you're trying to achieve, and they should they really should stir some emotion in you. So if you throw out the term innovative, that should have you should have some emotional attachment to how that relates to your city as Berkeley. If you throw out welcoming, there should be some emotional attachment with that comment. So I guess the question I would ask to the group is this progressive? I don't mean progressive in the political. Is this progressive enough? Is this emotional enough? Does it really kind of pull at your heartstrings a little bit? And that's kind of what you want when you have these statements. They should be bold statements that connotate an active emotion within you with regards to the city. And so I challenge the group to tell me if these really do kind of, I guess, tug at your heartstrings a little bit in terms of getting some emotion from you.
All right. I see. Lisa shares, I don't know whether innovative or progressive does that for me. So maybe that there's another word that moves to symbolize that moving forward.
So Megan, kind of what I'm hearing. I'm sorry, Erin.
Can I chime in?
Yeah.
Okay. So, in terms of innovative progressive, I gotta say I do like the innovative. For me, that stirs a reaction from me of I need to make sure that I'm at the top of my game, looking at the best possible ways we can work to facilitate our vision, our goals, the values, making sure that we are moving forward, not just the way other communities around us are doing and kind of following suit, but seeing if there's a way we can be the leader in some of the projects and some of the plans and the direction that we want to go. So for me, that kind of innovative looks more forward thinking and thinking outside the box a little bit than the traditional planning that's done around us. So that's kind of where my head goes to with innovative rather than progressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and when I was reviewing this as well, Erin, I leaned toward innovative as well, because when I think of innovation, it is I always associate it with two other words. It's new and better. So it could be a new way to do something, but it could just be the same way we're doing it, but better. So it doesn't necessarily mean that something is just flatly changing wholesale. I always couple it with innovation is a new or better way, or new and better way to do something. So I think that's sort of as we develop the master plan, those are the pieces that we would like to input as committee members and gather information from the community about new and better ways to do something as a city.
Yeah, and in the chat, people have put some kind of different parameters around it. Elisa pointed out innovative to her means advanced methods, new ideas, creative thinking. whereas progressive could be developing gradually in stages. And those are two different ideas in terms of like the speed at which you move. And then Lisa shared, as Erin was talking, made you think that innovative might be better because we'll have to be more creative and innovative to solve some of the issues that you have as a built-out community, such as maybe indicating into the corridors and the parking, and the challenges you'll have with having to have different types of housing. Tricia shared, I think we also aspire to be innovative, but I don't think we actually are. I'd welcome to disputes to that. And, we've heard attention in the community kind of about that as well.
Let's not, maybe not, this is not the forum to dispute that, but I like your term about aspire, Tricia, because these are supposed to be aspirational statements. These are supposed to be what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
This is a long-term plan. So these are aspirational statements about what your values are as a community. So though you may wonder, and you said dispute about whether or not you're innovative, these are, again, aspirational statements. So if you find that you aspire to be innovative, then that's a pretty good, we're landing pretty closely to the mark here on this.
Right. And then in terms of welcoming, again, behaving politely, friendly from Alyssa, and inclusive means covering all services, facilities as part of the whole. So this is great input. Thank you so much. And being able to look and having you seeing it from different angles and whatnot.
So I would just make an overarching comment. I want to hear if Megan and Erin and Joe agree, and anyone else in the chat. It sounds like we're close. We've hit the mark on, for the most of these. We can kind of wordsmith a little bit about what word we do or don't use, but it sounds like we're pretty close in terms of some consensus on some of this bigger picture statements. Do you guys agree with that?
Yes, I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, Elisa was saying that those are definitions that she was sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're close to the mark. And Tricia agrees.
Thank you, Tricia.
But and there's Lisa prefers inclusive, but I think what stands out is and Lisa says, I think the values are real close. It's just that and no one said, even though we fully invited it no one said it's horrible, I don't like it, change it completely. So if we can do these things that kind of are around the edges.
Well, I think the reason I brought this up is Megan and I have worked on enough plans where we can't even get community consensus even close to this at this point. So it's a good. We're in a very good position.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. Thanks. And so then we've got a little more time. I think then one of our other questions always to a group is, do these encompass what you think, your feelings about Berkeley today and your feelings about what Berkeley should be in 20 years?
Yes, I'll jump in here for myself. Yeah, I definitely think, again, being part of the process, we had a list of a dozen, I think, 15. So, to make it very, very concise and poignant for content for the master plan, I think these four, and in whatever shape or form the word we use, these four core values float to the top to be supportive for the mission and vision. They can have some tweaks, I suppose, in the additional language that supports them, or particularly maybe even that first word. But starting with four values like these, I think, is definitely currently how I feel about Berkeley and how I would want to see it in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think these were well supported by all the data from the surveys as well. Like in some shape or form, these four, I think, all signs point to those when you kind of look at the open-ended comments of things. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
I absolutely agree to that. I think that the values here that we have, either they encompass exactly what Berkeley is, or something like Berkeley is innovative, what we aspire to be going forward. So I think it hits both of them, and it's I think they're wonderful, and yeah, maybe a little wordsmithing, but I think it really does encompass what the Berkeley residents have said they wanted or needed in the survey.
Yeah. Great. Anything from the attendees in terms of these values or the mission and the vision encompassing what you feel about Berkeley? We've had a couple of things in terms of I'm not against inclusive, but welcoming seems warmer. Also, if we're using inclusive, maybe the definition should address current as well as new residents and businesses. I think whether it's welcoming or inclusive, we need to specifically in that supporting language make sure that it expressly applies to both. And then Kurt's shared, I feel like dynamic and innovative work well together because we're a small city tackling unique issues. If we have to be both dynamic and innovative to find solutions that make almost everyone happy. A planner's dream.
Yes.
All right. And leaning towards inclusive. All right. But no one's answered my question yet from the attendees do these resonate with you, and do you feel like these express what Berkeley is or what you want Berkeley to be? Okay, from Trisha. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Trisha. And Kurt agrees that they are good. All right. Lisa, yes. All right. So it seems like we have some work to do, but we're close to the mark.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a great place to be right now in the process.
Before we wrap up, Megan and Aaron, do you want to talk a little bit about next steps and where we're kind of moving with this?
I think that would be appropriate.
Okay.
So, in terms of things that are coming up, first of all, this is by no means the draft mission and values. The mission, vision, and values are by no means finalized or set in stone. This is a draft, and we'll need to go back to the steering committee, and then the steering committee will look at it, and then it'll go to the planning commission. And at the planning commission, it's a public meeting, and you're welcome to participate. And I'm sure that they'll want to hear, the community's input as well. But also then going forward, there's a number we were looking at. There's a couple of key issues, and Ben, could you talk to those in terms of things that we know we need more discussion on?
Yeah, so if you listen to our first webinar, we spent a lot of time talking about the three whats. And so what's important in community, why is it important, and then what are we going to do about it? Our job with this community is to help you think about the first two. What's important and why is it important? And I think we're at the stage now where we've got really good feedback on those two issues. What's important and why is it important? It's our job as planners now to help you think about what do we do about it now? How do we improve upon what's important, alter what you want to see change, and give you strategies. So by no means is this the end of input and participation, but we're at a pretty good point now in the planning process where we can really start thinking about these big picture items and start actually coming forth with stuff for the community to react to. The issues that we've identified that are extremely important are obviously parking. We've heard that a lot about parking, especially along the corridors and kind of as it pushes back into some of the residential neighborhoods. That's something we're going to address. Corridors, either both redevelopment of corridors, changing desired land uses on corridors, traffic issues on corridors and mobility issues on corridors, and some aesthetics, streetscape, other improvements on the corridors. Gathering spaces, both smaller gathering spaces within the neighborhoods, pocket parks, or smaller gathering spaces, but larger communal gathering spaces, whether that be in your downtown, whether that be a community center, just some common gathering space issues. And the other thing we've heard a lot about is both maintaining some neighborhood compatibility and sustainability. That was Kurt raised that today is a really important issue, and that moving forward. And the other issue that we've heard a lot of, and this goes more towards the innovative side of things, is incorporating advanced technologies with green infrastructure, stormwater management, how do you deal with some of your infrastructure issues, as well as solar and other environmental issues within the community. So, Megan, I may have probably missed one or two, but those are kind of the bigger picture issues that we're going to start tackling. And so we're going to start bringing back some of these ideas to the steering committee and the planning commission to react to start kind of, I like to say, putting the meat on the bones of the plan, because we've got the skeleton in place in terms of what's important and why is it important. Now I got to start fleshing out the meat in terms of how do we actually give you the strategies to make changes. Mm-hmm. So I hit all your points, Megan.
Did you talk about housing?
I did not talk about housing. And that was thank you for teeing up that polarizing topic, Megan. Appreciate that. It was an interesting topic. The survey was not clear in terms of housing issues, whether or not, should there be alternative housing options within Berkley other than just single family? And if there should be, where should it be and what should it look like? But one of the questions that we kept asking members in any sort of focus group, and especially talking a lot about senior housing, because obviously you have an aging population, is if you age out of your house, where can you go in Berkley? And everyone said, I can't. I have to leave Berkley. And so that's something that the community is really going to have to grapple with and discuss. And we don't come with necessarily any hard, solid answers at this point or any strategies, but it's a conversation that we want the community to have is if we do provide or accommodate for alternative housing options, where should they be and what type and scale and size should they be? And it's something that the community really should address. It's a conversation that we think the community should have. And
as you pointed out in the last webinar, Ben, that might be interwoven also with how you talk about corridors and what's going to happen there. And so those two conversations could be linked.
And we've been very upfront and honest, I think, since we first came on, is we don't see big fundamental land use changes, especially within their neighborhoods. You're really talking about some of your peripheral areas. You're talking about your corridors for the most part. That's where you're going to see some potentially options or opportunities for some of these changes. So I think the core of the community of single family is not going to change. You're going to implement some of these green infrastructure options, solar and environmental and gathering spaces, but the fundamental core of the community is really going to stay single family. It's what do we do along, I call it the edges, the corridors in some of those areas.
And 12 Mile, which is your downtown, and
12, yeah,
kind of goes through the heart of the community.
Yep.
Crossroads. Well, this has been a fabulous session. Thank you to all the attendees for contributing either verbally or in the comments. We haven't had this many comments before, so it's great. And then, Erin, I'll hand it over to you to close us out.
All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank everyone who has attended any one of these webinars. Your input, your questions, your discussion, anything that you have provided to us has been instrumental. I want to thank everyone who has filled out the community survey or provided any other comments via email or phone calls. Those are obviously a big part of what we're doing here. So we love it. Keep them coming. Want to thank Joe for taking the time out and representing the Master Plan Steering Committee and speaking so eloquently about what you've been doing. It's wonderful to have you here. And I want to thank Ben and Megan for facilitating these webinars and putting together these fabulous presentations. They've been absolutely amazing, being able to articulate what we're doing, how we're doing it, how we're going to get there, and just want to thank you very much.
Well, thank you, and thank you to Tori, who's been in the background, your community engagement officer, really helping us as well.
Yes,
Right.
she has been. She's been wonderful getting all of the presentations online and facilitating those through CMN TV. So thank you to her as well. We have our last drop-in discussion, as you mentioned, on Thursday at 11 a.m. So if you have any questions, any lingering comments, anything you'd like to discuss, feel free to drop in. And with that, I will say good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.